Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Alright, so we are at, it's almost Ultra League. You have a week. Well, not really a week. You have like a couple of days, but this is your early analysis on Ultra League, regular Ultra League, not the Premier Cup. This is where you can have Flying Moon Duck Chicken and Heavy Metal Trash Can and Big Ghost Dragon Thingy on this meta. And other subsequent legendaries that are here like Entei, Suicune. Shadow Suicune is really good. But this is the Ultra League in Season 3. Now, I'm going to tell you, Ultra League in Season 3 isn't actually that bad. It's not really that bad. It's almost exactly this, not quite the same. Just add in a little Shadow Spice in there, add in an Empoleon with Drill Peck, and a debuffed Trash Can that isn't that bad. It's still really freaking good. And you have Ultra League. Let's get started. But for real though, I'm gonna go into some really good, deep, in-depth analysis. But it's even though, yeah, it's Ultra League. You may love or you may hate this meta, but regardless, we still have to go through it. If you like to look at my Premier Cup analysis, it's actually below in the description. So if you don't want to do this league, you actually hate this league, and you want to do the one below, please do check that video out. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, as usual, if you guys would like to contribute to pvpoke.com, please do in this link right here. This is an amazing website, and the human being behind this, Kakuna Matata, is an amazing dude, and I can't do everything that I do. I wouldn't be able to do everything I do if it wasn't for his website. Please consider contributing. So, Ultra League, as I mentioned before, it's kind of the same actually. So this season, the reason why it's kind of the same is because a lot of patterns in Ultra League have not really changed. The only massive thing that's different is Cresselia. The one thing that was really, like I mentioned before, that was really holding the entire Ultra League hostage was Cresselia. Because Moonblast with the debuff at 30% was just way too high. At 10%, it's a lot less oppressive, but it's still incredibly powerful. You'll still beat the matchups you're supposed to beat, even when the debuff doesn't exist, or even if you don't get the debuff. Now, of course, the reason why Cresselia was so pissing everyone off was because in last-minute scenarios, for example, if your opponent needs a debuff to win, then if they get it off, then guess what? If they get the debuff at the last second, and 30% is just really, really high. If you've noticed, there's a lot of Cresselia users in Great League for group battling in Season 3. And I can guarantee you that you won't see, if you've been watching streams, the debuff is not nearly as often as it would have been at 10%. Yes, 30 versus 10% makes a giant difference. A 90% chance of it failing versus a 70% chance of failing, it's had a titanical difference. That doesn't mean Cresselia loses its effectiveness. It's still incredibly dangerous in all aspects. Like I said, you're still going to beat what you're supposed to beat without the debuffed. And here you have Swampert, you have Giratina, you have Poliwrath, Fault. It still beats what's supposed to beat, like I said. And of course, its key losses is still where you're supposed to lose against when it comes to Cresselia. And even though Cresselia did get debuffed like it should have been, it's still very oppressive, and you can expect to see it a lot in regular Ultra League. Legendaries are still incredibly powerful in regular Ultra League, even though Registeel got nerfed. It didn't get nerfed that bad. Focus Blast will still kill a lot of things it's supposed to kill with 10 damage down, and Flash Cannon, you could still get the Flash Cannon. Not as quick as before, of course, but it only really is oppressive in 1 HP. So if you're making the match really close, that's when Registeel in Ultra League comes clutch. If you can avoid those clutch moments, then you really don't. It's not that bad to use Registeel. It's still incredibly powerful. As you see, even debuffed, it's still going to beat, like I said with Cresselia. It's going to beat what it's supposed to beat. So if you still want to use Registeel in Ultra League, it's still very good. It's slower and less powerful, but it's still very good, and that's why it still rates at number 4. The Regitina core is still powerful, and of course, good old Swampert. Good old Swampert Old Faithful, good old Swampert. Don't you love Swampert? Now, I'm not gonna lie, I ran Swampert in Season 1 and Shadow Swampert in Season 3. Shadow Swampert, now that Shadows are very available, if you want to use your Elite TM, may I interest you in the ways of Shadow Swampert, because it's an incredibly powerful switch, and Swampert as a Shadow actually flips matchups. Now, the reason I'm gonna go straight into Swampert right now, just because I just want you to see just how powerful it is. We're gonna put just because Swampert is a great utility mon. Many of you have one built, and it's incredibly powerful. Like of course, it's BBML. Now, the Shadow version isn't really BB. Well, the Shadow version isn't BBML. That's just my honest opinion, because Shadows in a regular version is very different. And you will see exactly why. I'm going to show you right now why the Shadow versus the regular Swampert requires to have some expertise to play. Actually, Shadow Swampert, that extra bulk you give up matters. So Shadow Swampert is incredibly powerful, but if you don't know how to use it, it can work against you, and you're about to see why. For example, a Shadow Swampert with bad IVs will actually get yeeted by one Grass Knot. You won't live a Grass Knot. I only know because I use Shadow Swampert in Season 2 very heavily, and I got to get very comfortable with it, but mine was very bad IV-wise. In fact, the IVs are so bad that I'm not really considering reusing it for this season. I'm really thinking about whether or not I want to use Shadow or the regular version. So as you see here, we're going to run the the one shield scenario as popularly known. As you see here, regular Swampert beats Blastoise, Shadow Swampert does not. However, look at this. Shadow Swampert in the ones beats Cresselia. That's huge. You beat Cresselia, Drifblim's still going to be around. You'll still see Drifblims. However, unlike Premier Ultra Cup, it's not in regular Ultra. It's still good. Drifblim's still very good, but it's just not as impressive or great as it would be in Premier Ultra League. With Shadow Swampert, you flip Excavalier. You also flip for Alligator in the one shield, which is really nice. You'll still beat Gengar. Now, regular Swampert beats beats Gira A, and that's because of the bulk. But you could, at most scenarios, like the way I played it, you can still beat Giratina with Shadow Swampert as in a Shield Down scenario. Like, you can still beat it. So, if you run this, and you run the Shadow Swampert simulation, as you see here, there is still ways to beat it. If you get an Earthquake, double Earthquake on Shadow Swampert, you can win. Of course, this is IV dependent, but as long as you see, as long as you have some damage on Giratina, you can flip this matchup, as you see here. And then, as you see, Swampert also beats Gramble, regular Swampert. Shadow Swampert goes down to Gramble just because of, against Charmers, Shadow Swampert. With energy advantage, Shadow Swampert can flip matchups against Charmers. But without it, it's kind of like, yeah. And here's another thing that you might be interested in. So, Shadow Swampert, which I can expect to run rampant in, where it's gonna run rampant in both leagues. You beat Shadow Swampert. Regular Machamp, I mean not Swampert, I mean Machamp. So regular, as you see, Machamp, you'll flip it. Good old Melmetal gets destroyed. Now Shadow Swampert, what I use a lot, beats Armored Mewtwo, that's pretty dang good. You also beat Obstagoon, two very popular picks that have been around since the preseason and since Armored Mewtwo came out with the Psystrike buff. As you see here, you're still going to beat what you're supposed to beat on other matchups, and you still lose against other things, like, for example, like Togekiss. Like, you're still going to lose Togekiss in the one, just because Togekiss is just going to charm you down. And that's the one shield. Here's the two shield matchup. Now, the two shield matchup, in the two shields, you beat Blastoise with Shadow versus the regular. This is a really weird matchup. So here's the big difference that Shadow Swampert has versus regular Swampert. With Shadow Swampert, you actually beat Charizard with one. As long as you can land a Hydro Cannon, you will one-shot you'll almost one-shot Charizard. As you see, it only takes one shot after. After the Hydro Cannon, poor Charizard's literally left with 1 HP. He's left with 1 HP. So you pretty much one-shot the Charizard if it has damage. That's what makes Shadow Swampert so impressive. Versus regular Swampert, which actually requires, you need 2 Hydro Cannons you need 2 Hydro Cannons at a certain range. As you hear, that's the regular Swampert. And now, as we play here, as you see, regular Swampert needs 2 Hydro Cannons to take out Charizard. That 1 Hydro Cannon makes a huge difference. If you're very good with energy advantage, Shadow Swampert is very, very powerful against the meta. And that requires you to be a really good player. But, as I say here, Shadow Swampert is here to stay, and it's very, very good. If you want to use it, you can use it. As you see here, you beat a lot of matchups. You'll still beat Cresselia in the lead. Not very strong, though. Make sure you have a good IV Shadow Swampert. Ironically, Ferrothorn loses with Bullet Seed Power with Flash Cannon. Actually loses against Shadow Swampert just because of yeah, the 2 shields, just because of Earthquake, which is nuts. You also beat Giratina Origins, which you could still see flying around. Lapras, regular Swampert beats Lapras. You beat Shadow Champ. You beat Armored Mewtwo. You beat Poliwrath in the 2 shield. And you also beat, well, obviously you beat Registeel. You beat Registeel pretty hard. But as you see, there are unique matchups that Shadow and regular Machamp, regular and Shadow flip. It's very worth seeing for Swampert. This is the difference between Swampert users. I'll be going deeper, and I'll do a Shadow like analysis, but for now, like, I just want to highlight Swampert and the suppressiveness. Swampert is still good. Nothing really changed in Ultra League except for the debuff with Cresselia, but I think the biggest highlight here is to show you just Shadows. Since now Shadows are a lot more available, I think Shadows and Regos are a thing. And also, Gyarados. So Gyarados has been a very powerful safe switch, but Gyarados actually jumped to number 7. It got really good because of Aqua Tail. Because with Aqua Tail, you have a bait move now, and you also get stabbed, so it can flip some matchups. So Dragon Breath Gyarados now has a stronger matchup against Giratina, and it's very powerful. As you see, it'll beat what it's supposed to be, but it's very strong. Against Charizard, you beat Charizard because you Aqua Tail it to death. That's essentially what happens. You just smack the crap out of it. You shake your tail feather, and you smack the crap out of Charizard's face with Aqua Tail, and it dies. That's basically what it is. And as you see, as I said before, just Shadow, that's the top. You could, like I said, not much of a change with extra Shadows. There's more. As you see, your leads, Cresselia is still the monster leads. Giratina O and Articuno kind of flipped, which is kind of weird because, yeah. I mean, I get it, but Articuno's still a great lead. I plan on using Articuno lead once more. And then, as you see for your closers, Cresselia, freaking Cresselia, damn it, Cresselia, freaking Cresselia, Cresselia, damn Cresselia. It's still really good. And for your switch, Cresselia is still really freaking good. And everything kind of stayed the same except for Gengar. Gengar with the Community Day with Shadow Punch now gives a really good bait move, so it's really good in Ultra now. And it ranks as a number 5 closer. So community moves such as Gengar and Gyarados are something to look out for. If you want to use them, they're really good. I would look at some, I would run up a sim, make a team around, and see how you like doing them. How you like playing with them. And now, Shadows. Some of you, this is your favorite portion of the video. Others of you, you absolutely hate these things, but they are here to stay, and they're very, very powerful. As you see, Shadow Swampert, he's the number 3 overall Mon because it's really that good. Now, don't let the fact it's positioned fool you. Shadow Swampert requires a good player will use Shadow Swampert like a monster. That's how good Shadow Swampert is. Shadow Swampert, in the hands of a very good player with great energy management and great confidence in its bulk, will do very, very good. Look out for it. And so interesting enough, Shadow Obama Snow. Remember how Obama Snow in Great League was oppressive? Guess what? Its Shadow version in Ultra League is really, really good. You want to know why? Because you see, you beat the entire BBML. Now, Registeel's kind of BBML, but like Cresselia, Giratina, and Swampert are pretty much the BBML. And then you can put Togerson. But Obama Snow is here to stay, and it beats all of these. You also beat Charmers. You'll beat Togekiss too with Shadow Obama Snow because of Ice, Powder Snow, and Weather Ball. It's incredibly powerful in Ultra League. If I had to pick something where I could tell you guys, you want to look at something, if you do have it and you are willing to use it, because you don't have to use an Elite TM on Shadow Obama Snow, it just takes a crap ton of Stardust. I would look into it. It's really good. It's really good. Like, yeah, like It's really good. You should take a look at it. Take a look at it. Take a look at it. As you see, the lead Shadow Bombless Snow actually ranks number 4. And Shadow Machamp. Now, don't look at this. Please don't use Gardevoir at Ultra League. Yes, it's level. Please just don't. If you want people to absolutely hate your guts, then may you forward yourself to the dark side and use Shadow Guard. But it's not that great, trust me. Just there are better picks out there for Shadow Guard and better use for your Stardust, like Obama Snow. So Shadow's actually flipped a lot of things. As you see, Shadow Suicune is a fantastic safe switch just because of the extra Shadow damage. Snarl, Bubble Beam, Ice Beam. And here is why. As a lead, you beat the entire BBML! You beat the entire BBML. Now you lose against Registeel, but it's okay. If yeah, it's okay. Like I wouldn't worry so much about that. But look, you beat the entire BBML. You also beat Charizard. You beat Articuno in the lead as well. Articunos are still very prominent in Ultra League. Of course, you lose some like valuable matchups like Venusaur. You don't see a lot of Venusaurs. You probably don't see a lot of Poliwraths either. Lapras. You might see more. You might not see a lot of. So the meta is going to be a little weird because you may or may not see Poliwraths. If you do see Poliwraths, just be careful because Poliwrath is very powerful this meta. But as you see here, Shadow Suicune and Shadow Machamp are incredibly impressive, and they do a lot of damage. Ultra League Machamp is a monster, and it does a lot of damage. Of course, you're going to lose against all of these picks right here. Well, that's pretty obvious. Psychics, you Poison Resistia, and good old Charmers. But other than that, Shadow Machamp is still very powerful. As you see, there's a lot of shadows that are very strong. And the closer, in fact, the number 2 is Shadow Raikou and Shadow Magnezone. You want to know why? Because of one move. Actually, all 3 of the top shadows, 2, 4, and 7, are all Wild Charge versions. They are incredibly powerful as closers. Look at this. You roast the crap out of Poliwrath, Articuno. Poor Charizard yeets it in the face, and Registeel, which has also hated and taken your money so many times and your elo, we will destroy it. Shadow Raikou, pretty much the same thing. All of these 3 pretty much beat the Shadow Raikou just because you yeet Cresselia to death. Shadow Magnezone because of Cresselia as well. And Shadow Electivire, you don't quite beat Cresselia the closer, but it's still pretty freaking strong. And as your switches for shadows, the number 1 is actually Suicune. Why? Because Suicune is very, very powerful as a shadow. As you see here, you have very strong matchups against BBML, and it isn't likely unless you see Lapras and Empoleon. You could see more use in Ultra League. I forgot to mention that. The Emperor Penguin does have use, however, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Yeah, it's as you see, 598, 539. It's not horrible. You could still try to play around it. It's not a super strong matchup. You still lose against it, but it's not super strong. You get it? That's Shadow Suicune. Shadow Suicune is very, very powerful. If you have one and you are willing to use it, I would look into it. But as you see, as your switches, Shadow Swampert, Electivire, Zapdos, Politoed, Gyarados, Abomasnow. As you see, shadows are very powerful, particularly Shadow Suicune, just because of what you beat as switches. You could expect to see a lot of Swamperts and Giratinas and Cresselias around in Ultra League. Alright, now I'm going to run a Matrix. So a lot of people like me doing Matrixes because I break them down pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Matrix on Ultra League. Now, you can modify your Matrix the way you want to do it. This is how I modify my matrices. You just pretty much go in alphabetical order. But what I would do if you're... Because here's what happens. If you run a regular matrix like this, you're just going to get this really jumbled up... Yeah, this really jumbled up list. And if it's really just going to be a pain in the butt, you can export it and then it will make a little more sense, but not really. So here's what I want. So here's what I recommend you do. Rather than do this, I would totally do this and do this. So here's a team I have for Ultra League. You can already steal. So what I do is take your team, run a matrix, and look at what you beat and what you don't beat. Look at what you cover and what you don't cover. You can also do this in the team builder feature, but why I like doing it in matrix, just because a matrix is just much easier on your eyes. Because you can manipulate your matrix like this. For example, I'm manipulating the matrix in the one shield right now. As you see right here, this is the one shield. As you see, I got a lot of coverage for a lot of picks that I got a lot of coverage. I got a lot of coverage against BBML. All 3 of my picks beat Cresselia. They beat Cresselia. Beats Cresselia. My streaks are very strong against Swampert. There's Swampert. Well, that's the one shield, but I have something that beats Swampert. I have something that beats Swampert. I also have a lot of coverage across the entire board. And as you see, unless it's Swampert Shadow, Obama's Note, I Obama Snow kneels to his knees. So as you see here, that's one shield, and then here's the twos. But like I said, I would run your team, and you can run against Matrix, but you could also do this in Team Builder. So as you see here, this two shield matchup. Now I always run the twos on your lead. So always run the two shield in your lead and look at and like really look closely at your lead in your switch. Your closer you can, unless you use your closer as a switch. I kind of double save switch into Swampert / Ready Steel depending on the situation. But you really want to look at your lead for the two shield because you're gonna be in two shields. You know you're gonna know what you beat and what you. For example, I know two shield Articuno is neutral against, doesn't win against Charizard in the two shields. There's no freaking way I'm gonna beat a Charizard in a two shield or Articuno. So you want to run the sims against that and then practice running that way. For example, in the two shields, all of my mons will beat the two Armor Mewtwo in the two shields, and it beats Alola in the two shields. And you want to take a close look on like your lead for the two shield scenario. Now you can also do this in Team Builder. Go right here, go to Ultra League, go to Ultra League, pop in. Let's just say we're gonna do a Mega Hyper Meta line. Let's do Togekiss. Let's also do Cresselia, and then we'll do the Grass Knot variant, and then we'll do Giratina, just as like kind of like yeah, it's just to see. And then as you see, this is how your team rates. You don't really, I wouldn't follow this to the T. Like obviously your team's going to have your own team mechanics, etc. And it's still, this doesn't mean you're like, this is a good indicator to look at your team. It's a great indicator to look at your team. But like you see, this team is really good. Togekiss, Cresselia, Giratina. And let's change that to Dragon Breath. And then as you see, this team's really good. It's very good. CAA. You want as high grades as possible. You don't have to follow to the T, but the higher grades, the better. Because this really does reflect like what you cover, and if your team has really good consistency, it's really it's a great tool to base your teams off. I use it a lot. So if I don't have at least bigger, it's okay if one category has D, because sometimes like for example, like sometimes bulk, like sometimes you'll just have a really like oppressive team that doesn't really rely on bulk or using shields. So this is why this is a good team, great team. Here's my team. This is the team I plan on using. Subject to change, of course, because the meta is ever changing, and we could always have something that comes up that's new. But you always want to follow this tool. Yeah, or you want to use this tool. If you want a general tool build and then look at your weaknesses and things, as you see here, my team is incredibly powerful. My team is incredibly powerful. BBAA. This is a great team because you have Articuno, you have a wall for flyers, etc., and you have Swampert in the back. It covers a lot of meta. As you see here, it tells you what you beat and you don't beat, and it's a really great indicator. As you see here, Cresselia loses against Registeel, it loses against Swampert, and I take out Articuno. I have very neutral plans against all of BBML, unless it's Shadow Swampert, then it's just weird. Then things get weird. But as you see, it's a great team. That's the team I plan on using. But like I said, run your matrix, run your team builder, practice, and look at what you got. But this is a great tool to tell you what you win and lose against. So use a team builder and use a matrix, and you will get good. Well, not really. You obviously need to practice and drill, but this is a great tool to show you how you can get good. Alright, so like I said, not much has changed in Ultra League. Legendaries and even Registeel is still very powerful. Like even though Registeel got nerfed and Cresselia's debuff chance went down to 10%, they're still very powerful. Look at them to be still very strong. And then also look out for shadows, like I mentioned, Gengar, and community mons like Gengar and Gyarados. And also Drill Peck and Polion. Now, Drill Peck and Polion isn't that oppressive in this meta. Like, you mainly wanted to use Empoleon for Hydro Cannon anyways, but yeah, I would take a look at Drill Peck and Empoleon because it can still be very good. You can still do a lot of damage and it gives you coverage against fighters with Drill Peck and Empoleon, provided that shields are down. And as my third says, prepare, train, study, get ready, because it's going to be one hell of a season. Season 3 is chaos. And just like how you saw Great League was really open, I can expect Ultra League to be the same, especially in Premier Cup. Premier Ultra League and regular Ultra League are just going to be absolute chaos. Get ready for them, but like I said, the legendaries, with legendaries added, they're still very powerful, so look out for them, especially Shadow legendaries. Please like and comment if you guys have any questions. Thanks for watching. I'll be doing more, like I said before, on my Premier. If you would like to take a look at my Premier Cup analysis, it's below. So Ultra Premier Cup analysis is below, the early one. And then I'll be doing more individual mod analysis. You guys have a good one, and you guys have a wonderful night, and I'll see you on the next video.